5 distal. Sometimes I like to take pictures of this to show the patients so they can be like, oh, yeah, that's what it looks like in an x-ray, and that's what it looks like clinically. Now here's my final preparation. You can see I have a whole bunch of enamel there, very conservative. Luckily, I didn't do any damage to the adjacent tooth. Because if I wouldn't have used that, maybe I would have. Sometimes I think I'm better than I am. So that's why I use that wedge guard. I have placed my matrix in there with my ring. Good contours. Now, some people like to really push hard against this to make sure they get a good contact. I wouldn't recommend that. I would say just at the point where you want the contact, because if you push too hard, you can actually turn it into a concavity versus a convexity, right? You want convexity going up against that other tooth. So careful how you're pushing it. And you can see I've isolated the base very, very well there. Now I'm using XTR and a self-etch function. And then I put my single layer bulk fill with the SonicFill. Then I carve that. I use a couple different instruments. First a packable, and then I like to use a flat instruments to get my marginal ridges. And there it is initially. I cure from the occlusal. And then what I do, this is what I do almost all the time. I cure from the occlusal, and then I open up my matrix here, buccolingual, and sometimes I'll try to take it off. Sometimes I leave it, and I cure from the buccal. I cure from the lingual. Now, here's a case I actually did what's today? Thursday. I did this one Tuesday. I told my staff, hey, I got a webinar Thursday. Here's a perfect example of a little technique that I use. And for those of you who are wondering, I do use an isolite. You can see it here instead of a rubber dam. So I do think isolation is of the utmost importance. So here I'm doing back-to-back restorations, right? A DO on 20, an MO on 19. And I find that sometimes I have trouble getting the perfect contours, right? If I push too hard right here, then I get that convexity versus a concavity. So I take whatever is the hardest one for me to access. For this purpose, it was the MO on 19. And I first fill that one. And after I fill it and cure it, then I kind of hold down my ring and I do a little magic trick, right? And I slide out one of the matrices. It's just something I like to do. I feel like that way I can get a better contour here on the DO of 20. But you can see my nice contour of 19. I would not try to fill 19 and 20 at the same time. Fill 19, then I slide that out, and then I can fill 20. And then in the end, you can see this really, really nice proximal contact. No way food's getting stuck in there.